Welcome. In this session, I'm going to show you how to create unit tests with Go. So let's get started. So I'm going to first initialize my module, as usual. So go mod init and then the module path. So it's going to be github.com/maximiliandile/demo-unit-test. So when I do that, I will have one file created, the go.mod, and you will have the module name here and the version of Go that I used to develop that module. Then I'm going to add a new library I'm going to show you. It's GoMoney, and it's a pretty convenient library in order to manipulate amounts of money. And we will base our code on that in order to create a small feature and unit test it. So what I do is I check the README, and then I'm going to copy that. And then I type in my terminal go get and then this module path. And you can see that it has been added here and in the Go sum. So now I'm going to create a new directory that I call internal. And by the way, do you know that if you create a directory named internal, every package that you put into that directory, so if I create a package, for instance, order here, it will remain internal. It will not be shared, and anybody on the web will not be able to import order because it's in the directory internal, and Go will forbid that. So inside this directory order, I'm going to create a Go file named order. And then inside that Go file, I'm going to create a type that I name order. So it's going to be my order. So it's based on a struct. And I'm going to have an ID field that is a string, and then I'm going to have some items in my order, and it's going to be a slice of item, and the type item doesn't exist for the moment, so I'm going to create it. So type item is based on the struct, and here I can put an ID, which will be a string, and I'm going to have a quantity for the item, so it's going to be a uint. You cannot have -1 quantity, for instance. And then I'm going to put the unit price. That will be a type pointer to money.money. And so you can see that here I'm referring to this module, so the type money that is defined in this module. And so it takes nothing as input, but the output will be a total amount. So I'm going to define the output as a pointer to money.money, so an amount of money. And eventually, we can also have an error. All right, so this is my method, compute total. So we have to compute the order, the total of the order. So I'm going to initialize the amount, and it's going to be a money.new. So I initialize that to 0, but I have to define also the currency of the order. And so I'm going to just add here another field to my type order, which will be named currency. And which will not be named currency, just currency like that. It will be currency alpha code. So for instance, euro. And so here I can use that, currency alpha code. So I initialize my amount to 0. And then I need to iterate over each item and add the quantity times unit price to that. So I'm going to do a for loop. And I'm going to iterate over the items. Do I need the index k? So k would be an integer. It will be 0, 1, 2, etc., etc. I don't need that. I only need the value, and the value is an item. So let's rename that item. It will be easier to handle. So for each item in my order, I want to add the amount of this item to my global amount. So to do that, I'm going to use the add method that is defined on each element of type pointer to money and also of type money. So add will expect us to give another element of type pointer to money. So I have it. It's item dot unit price, right? So I add to my amount the unit price here. And you can see that my IDE is warning me about something here. You can see it here. I have an unhandled error. So I have to handle that. And by the way, let's take a look at the definition. And you can see that it returns a new money string with the value that represents the sum and an error. So I have to handle that. There is something that I can do is I can reset the value of amount. So here amount is initialized with the 0 currency. I can set that again after the add. So to do that, I write amount, then comma error, and then a simple equal. What is wrong here? You can see that error, so this variable, is in red. That's because error is not defined. So I need to define that here, for instance. So I define a new variable error of type error, and then I can use it here. So then I need to check if I have an error. So if error different than nil, it means that there is something wrong. So I'm going to return nil and the error. But I've wrapped the error like that, fmt error f. And with fmt error f, I will be able to wrap the error, so add an additional message in order to inform about the context of the error. So I'm going to say impossible to add item elements. And then I'm using %w in order to wrap the error. So it means that the caller will be able to unwrap it. We will see that probably in another video. All right. So then at the end of the for loop, I should return the total amount. So I should return amount and then nil for the error because everything was okay. All right, so it seems that we have our function ready to test. Let's say that you want to test that package order. So you need to create one file in the same directory, in the directory order. And this file should be named order_test.go. Each test file that you are going to write is going to be named under test.go. So you can put whatever you want before, but it has to be under test.go. And then I have also to put the package clause at the beginning. So it's going to be package order. And inside that file, I'm going to create my unit test. So you can see that my IDE is helping me a bit. And what you can note here is that we first import the package testing that is part of the standard library. And then when we create a test function, you can see that it automatically starts with test, and then you have to input the name. So generally the name, what you put is the method or the function that you want to test, compute total, for instance. And then this is the body of your test. Here you will have to perform the logic of your test. So what I'm going to do simply is that I'm going to create an order. I create a variable O, and then it's of type order. And I can fill all the fields of that order. So the ID would be 45, for instance. Currency alpha code would be euro. And the items is initialized with nil. That's because it's a slice, and the 0 value for a slice is nil. So I'm going to replace that with a slice of item. And I'm going to put some items here. So this will be my first item. So what do we have for an item? We have an ID, quantity, and unit price. So let's go, let's fill that. So ID for P58, for instance. Quantity, we're going to put 2. And unit price, don't forget the comma here. And unit price, we're going to create a new element of type money. So money.new. And we're going to say that we want that to be 1 euro. You might ask, why do I put 100? That's because the amount should be expressed in the smallest unit of the currency. So for the euro, it's the cent. So 1 euro is equal 100 cents. Okay, so I have 2 items, and the unit price of each item is €1. Now that I have my order, I can call my method computeTotal. So I can do that with o.computeTotal. And computeTotal will return the total. So I will name that total and an error. So I create 2 variables, total and error. And then I should check that I have no errors, and also that the total that is returned is the one that is correct. In order to help me checking that, I can use a library that I use a lot in order to write unit tests. It's this one, so Stretcher Testify. And it's a toolkit with the common assertion. So an assertion is a check that you do on something, and also mocks. So to install that, I simply need to do a go get. So I'm copying that, and then I'm doing a go get here. So go get and the module pass. And now I can use elements of that library. So for memory, you can use the package asset, and you can check equality, not equal, nil, not nil, no error, etc., etc. We'll see how to use that. So I'm typing asset dot, and then I should have auto-completion, so no error. So it takes t, so an element of type pointer of testing.t, and the error. So I check that I have no error, and then I assert that I have an equality between what and what. So you have to first to provide the expected value. So what would it be? So I have 2 elements. So my amount would be €2 for the total, and so expected is that, and I can check that against the amount. I can also check that I have an equality between the currency. So I can do that like that. So now we can launch the test. So I open the new terminal, and then inside my project, I'm going to type go test and then dot slash and triple dots. So this command will run all the unit tests, so all the unit tests of your project. Let's run it. You can see here that you have a failure, so it's written fail. And I have 2 failures. So one at the line 23 in my test. So you can see that we have not equal, we have an expected integer that is 200 and an actual that is an int 64 and it's 100. And also here you have an expected string, and then an actual is a pointer to this tab, so money.currency. I can easily fix the second one. Total.currency, what is it? It's an element of type pointer to currency, and you can see that it's a type. And here I compare a string with an element of type pointer to money.currency. So it's not good. I want to compare only those 3-letter symbols. So I can get here the code simply. Let's run that again and see if we have this that is resolved. No, we just have one failure. You can see that we have an expected amount of 200 and it was only 100. But still we have this item and we have a quantity of 2. So it means that our code is not good. Let's take a look at order.go. So here I initialize the amount here to 0. And then I add the unit price. But this is the unit price, so we have to multiply the unit price by the quantity, right? So to do that, because unit price is an element of type pointer to money.money, I can use the multiply method, and I can give to that method the item quantity. And you can see here that I have an issue with the type. Here, item.quantity is of type uint. And when I take a look at the definition of this method, it's accepting an int64. So what I can do is I can convert that, so item.quantity, which is of type uint, to int64. And now I can run my unit tests again. So I use my terminal and I type go test dot slash and triple dots. It's going to run all the unit tests. And you can see that I still have failure. My expected here is int 200 and the actual is int 64 200. So it's the same numbers, but the types are different. So let's check the test. So what I can do is I can do something like that. So I can say that this 200 will be an int 64 explicitly, because if I say nothing, the type will be inferred and it will be of type int. And then I can run the test again. And you can see that you have an OK here and the time that it took to run the tests, and it's working. So very good. I just want to show you one last thing, is that you can have subtests. So in order to create a subtest, you can call t.run, and then you put the name of your subtest, for instance, nominal case. And then it takes an anonymous function with the following signatures. So one parameter of type pointer to testing.t, and then I can put my nominal case here. I can create another subtest. I will say I will test here the currencies issues. So here I put the same thing, so another subtest, and then I'm going to copy that. And so here I say, for instance, that my order has a currency that is USD, so the alpha code is USD, and here I have items that are tagged in euro. So if I run that, I should check that I have effectively an error. I should assert that I have an error here because something is wrong. So I will say assert error. And then I can discard total because I will not check the value of total because we will have an error. The output of your test will not be different if you have no failures, but if you have failures, it will be easier to debug. For instance, let's say here that I want no error. Obviously, I should have an error. And then let's try to run the test. Now you see that I have written here that I have a failure on test compute total, and I have a failure on test compute total / currency issues. So when I look into the code, I know this is this subtest, currency issues, that is problematic. So it will be easier to debug. So generally what I do is that I have this test function for a particular function of method in my code, and then I put first the nominal cases, so the passing cases, and then I'll test also the error cases, but I create a subtest for each corner case that we can have. Just a small remark, you can see here in this run that I have no duration that is written here, but instead I have cached. That means that the results of the test has been cached by Go, so when the test is successful and there is no change on the code, the result is cached. Of course, when you have failures, it will run each time again. Here it runs, and it runs, and it runs. Another thing is if you use an IDE, as I found that particularly useful on day-to-day life, is that you can use those commands to run your tests directly in the IDE. And you can see here that we have some additional logging. It says that it has run this nominal case and currency issues. All right, let's conclude. So what do you need to remember? The tests are located in the same directory as the code under test. And when you write a test file, the name of that file should end with _ test.co. Here, for instance, you can see that I have my directory order, and so I have an order.go file. This is my source file for this package. I can have several source files for one package. And then I have this file, order _ test.co. So here I can write unit tests in that file. And in order to run all the tests of a project, you can run this command, so go test, then / and triple dots. And inside a test file, you will find test functions. And a test function always starts with test, and then you can put whatever you want after. So it's, for instance, here test compute total, and it takes one single parameter, an element of type pointer to testing.t. Testing, this is the standard package testing. And generally what I do is that for each function method, I have one test function. And then do not hesitate to use subtests. So in order to create a subtest inside the test function, you need to write that. So t.run and then the subtest name. And then it takes another parameter, which is an anonymous function that is written like that. So func, and then you have one parameter. It's a pointer to a testing.t again. And then you can write your test as you want. You can also use assertion libraries like what we did in this example. Thank you for watching this session. You can read my book on practicalgolessons.com. It's a book about Go. The online version is free. You can also buy the digital or paper version to support me. I also have a Go course available 32 hours. Don't hesitate to check it out. You can follow me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. Thanks for watching and see you next time.